Windows PowerShell Foundations. Hi, I'm Don Jones, and in this series, I'm going to teach you how to use Windows PowerShell, even if you have got no experience whatsoever in command line shells or scripting or programming. You don't need any of it. You know the saying, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, he'll depopulate an entire ocean ecosystem in just 2 generations? Well, we are going to go for the latter approach. I'm not only going to teach you how to use PowerShell, I'm going to teach you how to use it to teach yourself how to accomplish real administrative tasks in PowerShell. Let me show you how we're going to do it. We'll start with this introduction, where I'm also going to give you some information on what kind of lab environment you might want to set up so that you can kind of follow along and practice the things that you're learning. Then we'll jump right in, and I'll let you meet PowerShell, show you how to use the help system, get right into actually running commands, show you how to work with providers. And providers are something that a lot of people overlook when they're learning PowerShell, and I am not going to let that happen to you. Then we will start diving into the PowerShell pipeline, part of what makes it such a unique shell and management tool. Show you how to add some commands, get some terminology straight with objects, dive deeper into the pipeline once we've kind of gotten that under your belt, talk about formatting your output, make it nice and pretty, and how to filter information out of the pipeline so that your results only contain the exact data you need them to contain. Then it'll be on to remote control and the various ways to use those technologies using Windows management instrumentation. We'll talk about getting PowerShell multitasking with background jobs and focus on working with bunches of things in a single operation with working with bunches of objects. Then we're going to start tiptoeing into the world of actual scripting, sort of lightweight programming. And before we do that, we need to cover a few security concerns. We'll also talk about variables, how to display output and retrieve input from users. We'll kind of circle back to remote control and talk about remote control sessions. That's going to utilize variables, which is why we kind of need to do it in this order. And then, if you picked this up thinking it was going to be a scripting course, think again, because we're mainly going to be running commands from the command line. But once we've perfected those commands, you'll call this scripting, we're going to actually reuse those commands and make some tools that could be distributed to our colleagues. And then we'll improve on those a little bit, add some maturity and some neat little things to them. And then we'll wrap up with just some additional tips, tricks, and random techniques. Now, I suggest you set up a little lab environment for yourself so that as you're learning new things, you can practice them. And as we go, I'll try and give you some ideas for things you might want to practice on your own. As far as what you need in that lab, 100% of what you're going to learn can be accomplished on Windows 8 or Windows Server 2012. If you happen to have access to Windows Server 2012, set it up as a domain controller if possible. Now, I'm assuming you already know how to do that. If you don't sweat it, or you can hop on Google or Bing and find a pretty quick set of tutorials to get a domain controller up and running. Now, if you don't have those latest versions of Windows, about 90% of what you're going to see can also be done as is in Windows Server 2008 R2 after you've installed PowerShell version 3, which is a free download from Microsoft.com. If you don't even have that and all you've got to play with is a Windows 7 computer, that's fine. About 80% of the examples I'm going to show you will work on Windows 7 once you've installed PowerShell version 3, which again is a free download from Microsoft.com. 100% of what I'm going to show you is applicable to all of these. It's just some of the examples I'm going to show you to illustrate different techniques rely on features that are only in the newer versions of Windows. And so that's why you kind of get a declining thing. Now, if you're on XP, stop right here. We are going to be talking about PowerShell version 3, and it doesn't run on XP. So you are going to have to get something that was made within, the last decade. Bring things up to something new so that you can play along. Now, if you want, you can check out a company called Cloudshare.com. They make a pretty inexpensive cloud-based virtualization environment where they'll let you spin up virtual machines in whatever version of Windows you want to so that you can get a cloud-based virtual environment to play with. They're not available in all countries, and there is a fee associated with it if you use it past the trial period, but it's an option for you. Or, if you've got access to a Hyper-V server, just download a Microsoft VHD test drive image. That's a fully installed, ready-to-go Windows operating system that you can play with for as long as you want to. You just need to be able to drop it onto a Hyper-V server, which you can also get free of charge from Microsoft if you need to. Just a few online resources that I want you to keep in mind as you kind of go throughout this series. If you get stuck anytime in PowerShell, not just with this, but if you get stuck anytime, there's a couple of great websites you can go to get your questions answered. PowerShellCommunity.org and PowerShell.com. I recommend them both. If you're looking for some more reading, you'd like to take your PowerShell skills a little bit further, check out PowerShellBooks.com. It's a great and growing book, kind of curated book review, book recommendation site. The next one's really important. If you'd like some formal hands-on labs to go along with the nuggets that you're about to watch, go to morelunches.com. Click on the cover title, Learn Windows PowerShell 3 in a Month of Lunches, and in the Downloads section, you'll find a lab guide, sample lab answers. You'll find a bunch of other free downloadable stuff that just kind of helps reinforce some of the things you'll be learning throughout these nuggets. It's all free. You don't have to register for any of it. It's all there just for the taking. And finally, if you'd like to connect with me, look me up on Twitter at ConcentratedDon. With that said, it is time to jump in and do some PowerShell. Let's go.